In the golden sunlight of California's Muscle Beach during the late 1960s, a revolution was brewing. But it didn't involve loud shouting or the clanging of massive iron plates. It was silent. It was calculated. It was the arrival of a man who looked less like a powerhouse and more like a high school teacher, which, in fact, he was. Frank Zane didn't come to the gym to be the biggest man in the room. In an era where more is better was the unofficial mantra of bodybuilding, Zane stood as a quiet dissident. While others were obsessed with the tape measure, striving for 20-inch arms and 500-pound squats, Frank was obsessed with the mirror and the math. He didn't see himself as a weightlifter. He saw himself as a sculptor whose medium happened to be living flesh and bone. This first chapter of the Zane legacy is defined by one word: philosophy. To Frank, the body was an external manifestation of the internal state. He famously said, "The mind is the limit. As long as the mind can envision the fact that you can do something, you can do it, as long as you really believe it 100%. But his belief wasn't rooted in ego. It was rooted in Buddhist meditation, mathematics, and chemistry. He brought a degree of intellectualism to the sport that had never been seen before. Look at the stage today. We see mass monsters with distended bellies and labored breathing. They have lost the soul of the sport. Frank Zane, the chemist, understood something they have forgotten. Bodybuilding is an art of illusion. It is about creating a silhouette so perfect that it transcends the raw weight of the muscle. He focused on the golden ratio, a mathematical symmetry found in nature and classical Greek art. He knew that a smaller waist made the shoulders look wider. He knew that deep separation was more impressive than sheer volume. Frank wasn't just training his biceps, he was training his focus. He would spend hours in silence, visualizing the exact shape he wanted his muscles to take. He proved that the most powerful tool in the gym isn't the barbell, it's the brain. As we begin this journey into his life, remember that Frank Zane didn't just build a body, he built a masterpiece of human will, proving that true power lies in the grace of the form, not the weight of the mass. If you walked into Gold's Gym in the mid-70s and looked for Frank Zane, you wouldn't find him screaming under 1,000 pounds of iron. You would find a man working with surgical precision. This is the second pillar of his greatness, the mathematics of training. Frank didn't just work out, he calculated his progress with the soul of a scientist and the hands of an architect. While his contemporaries like the massive Lou Ferrigno or the powerhouse Franco Columbu focused on moving tectonic weights, Zane developed a system that prioritized the quality of the contraction over the quantity of the load. He pioneered the mind-muscle connection long before it became a fitness cliché. For Frank, every repetition was a biofeedback loop. He wasn't just lifting a dumbbell, he was sending a neural signal to a specific fiber, demanding it to grow in a specific direction. His training was split into a high-frequency, high-volume approach that allowed him to etch deep, permanent detail into his physique. He utilized the three-way split: pull, push, and legs. But the secret wasn't in the split, it was in the tempo. Frank favored 10 to 12 repetitions, moving the weight with a rhythmic, hypnotic flow. He avoided injury by using weights he could master rather than weights that mastered him. This is why even today, in his 80s, Frank Zane moves with the agility of a much younger man. He didn't break his body, he refined it. The Chemist earned his nickname for a reason. He kept meticulous journals. He recorded every set, every rep, every calorie, and even the angles of the sun when he tanned to ensure his muscle definition would pop under the stage lights. He understood that the human eye perceives shadows and highlights. Therefore, he trained his muscles to create the best shadows. He focused on the serratus anterior, the intercostals, and the deep abdominals, the small details that create a finished look. Most lifters today train for the pump. Frank trained for the pose. Every exercise was chosen because of how it would look when he hit his signature vacuum. He taught us that if you don't understand the anatomy of the muscle you are working, you're just moving weight in the dark. To follow the Zane path is to embrace the logic of the body. It is to realize that a perfectly executed set of lateral raises is worth more than 100 sloppy presses. It was math, it was chemistry, and it was undeniable.
In the history of bodybuilding, there are moments that change the trajectory of the sport forever. One such moment occurred in 1968 at the IFBB Mr. Universe in Miami. On one side of the stage stood a young, massive Austrian powerhouse named Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the Oak, a mountain of muscle, raw power, and undeniable charisma. On the other side stood Frank Zane. Compared to Arnold, Frank looked like a different species. He was smaller, lighter, and far more understated. The crowd looked at the scale. Arnold weighed nearly 250 pounds of imposing mass. Frank weighed barely 190 pounds. On paper, it was a mismatch. It was a collision between the philosophy of bigger is better and the philosophy of perfection is absolute. But when the lights hit the stage, the math shifted. Arnold was huge, but he was smooth. Frank, however, was shredded. Every muscle fiber was etched like a diamond-cut engraving. His skin was paper-thin, revealing a map of vascularity and separation that the world had never seen. When the results were announced, the unthinkable happened. The Teacher Man defeated the Oak. Frank Zane took the trophy home, leaving Arnold in a state of shock. A defeat Arnold later admitted was one of the most important lessons of his life. This wasn't just a win for Frank, it was a win for the idea of proportion. It proved that a smaller, perfectly balanced physique could dismantle a giant if that giant lacked the finish and the detail. This victory earned Frank the nickname the Chemist, but it also solidified his reputation as a giant killer. He didn't need to out-eat his opponents, he out-thought them. He knew that the human eye is drawn to symmetry and harmony, not just raw volume. While others were trying to get thick, Frank was getting crisp. He mastered the art of tapering, creating a wide V-taper that made his waist look impossibly small. This era of Zane's life was a manifesto. He proved to every aspiring lifter that you don't need to be a genetic freak of massive proportions to be the best in the world. You need discipline, you need a critical eye, and most importantly, you need the courage to stay small enough to stay beautiful. David had found his stone, and the Goliath of mass had been brought to his knees by the power of aesthetics.
The late 1970s belonged to one man. After the retirement of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the throne of bodybuilding was vacant, and many expected another mass monster to take the crown. Instead, the world entered the Zane years. From 1977 to 1979, Frank Zane didn't just win the Mr. Olympia title, he redefined what the title meant. He became the god of aesthetics, and his 3-year reign remains the most visually stunning period in the history of the sport. Imagine the 1977 Olympia stage. When Frank walked out, the room went silent. He didn't hit his poses with aggression, he hit them with a sense of inevitability. His famous vacuum pose, pulling his abdominal wall deep under his ribcage, created a silhouette that looked like a classic Greek statue come to life. It was a display of internal control that modern bodybuilders can only dream of. His waist was a mere 29 inches, yet his back spread like the wings of an eagle. In 1978 and 1979, he reached what many consider to be the peak of man. He wasn't just lean, he was Zane lean. This was a level of conditioning where every muscle was distinct from its neighbor. You could see the 3 heads of the triceps perfectly separated. You could see the striations in his quads like the strings of a harp. He didn't just show his muscles, he displayed them in a choreographed routine that felt like a masterclass in human anatomy. During these championship years, Frank mastered the art of peaking. He knew exactly how to manipulate his water, his salt, and his training intensity to look his best for exactly 15 minutes on a Saturday night. He used a tanning strategy involving specific angles of UV exposure to ensure no shadow was wasted. He was the first to truly treat his stage appearance like a theatrical production. He chose music that complemented his flow, and he moved between poses with the grace of a professional dancer. The 1979 Mr. Olympia was perhaps his greatest masterpiece. He defeated heavyweights like Robbie Robinson and Mike Mentzer, proving once again that quality beats quantity. This was the pinnacle of the golden era. It was a time when the Mr. Olympia was expected to be the most beautiful man in the world, not just the most muscular. Frank Zane held that mantle with a quiet dignity, showing the world that the ultimate goal of bodybuilding wasn't to look scary, it was to look divine. To understand the physique of Frank Zane, you must first understand the mind of Frank Zane. Most bodybuilders of the 70s were defined by the gym, the protein, and the heavy iron, but Frank was defined by silence. He was a seeker. While others were out partying after a workout, Frank was often found sitting in a corner of a quiet room, practicing Zen meditation or playing the bamboo flute. This wasn't a hobby, it was his secret weapon. This is the 5th chapter, The Psychology of the Chemist. Frank believed that the body follows the mind like a shadow follows an object. If the mind is cluttered, the body will be smooth and unfocused. If the mind is sharp and calm, the muscle will be hard and defined. He used a technique called autogenic training, a form of self-hypnosis to recover faster and to stay locked in during his brutal dieting phases. He didn't see hunger as a multi-layered suffering. He saw it as a mathematical necessity to reach his goal. He had the ability to detach himself from physical discomfort, which allowed him to push his body into levels of leanness that others found psychologically impossible. He was a man of letters, a teacher of mathematics and chemistry, a poet and an artist. This intellectual background gave him a distanced perspective on the sport. He didn't let bodybuilding consume his identity. He used bodybuilding as a tool for self-discovery. He famously said that he didn't want to be a big guy, he wanted to be a beautiful guy. This distinction is crucial. It required a level of ego control that is rare in a sport built on vanity. Frank was willing to lose weight if it meant gaining clarity and shape. He was a master of subtraction in a world obsessed with addition. His interest in Buddhism and Eastern philosophy taught him the flow state. When Frank was on stage, he wasn't trying to pose, he was the pose. There was no shaking, no straining of the neck, no gritting of the teeth. His face remained as calm as a statue's, even as every fiber of his body was screaming under the tension of a peak contraction. This stoic mask made him look invincible. It made his competitors look desperate by comparison. Frank Zane proved that the ultimate supplement isn't found in a bottle, it's found in the gray matter of the brain. He showed us that a disciplined mind creates a disciplined body. He lived by the mantra that what you think, you become. And as he stood on the world stage, calm and collected, he became the living proof that intelligence is the most aesthetic trait a human being can possess. The lights of the Mr. Olympia's stage eventually dimmed for Frank Zane, but the image of his silhouette remains burned into the collective consciousness of the fitness world. As we enter this final chapter, we look at the legacy of a man who didn't just win trophies, he defined an era. Even today, decades after his final competition, the name Frank Zane is the gold standard for what the human body should look like. In the years following his retirement, bodybuilding took a turn toward the extreme. The mass monsters arrived, and the vacuum pose became a relic of the past, replaced by distended midsections and incomprehensible scale weights. But a strange thing happened. As the pros got bigger, the fans started looking backwards. They started looking at photos of Frank in 1979 and saying, that is what I want to be." Frank's legacy acted as a lighthouse, guiding the sport back toward its artistic roots. This global longing for aesthetics eventually led to the creation of the classic physique category in modern bodybuilding. Every time you see an athlete pull a vacuum or focus on the flow of their lines over the size of their quads, you are seeing the ghost of Frank Zane. He didn't just influence his peers, he influenced the very architecture of the sport. He is the reason we still value the V-taper. He is the reason we still care about the X-frame. Today, in his 80s, Frank Zane remains a paragon of health. He didn't crash and burn like many of his contemporaries. He continues to teach, to write, and to inspire. He lives a life of balance, the same balance he displayed on the stage. He is a living testament to the fact that if you build your body with intelligence and care, it will last you a lifetime. He didn't break his joints for a moment of glory. He refined his system for a lifetime of excellence. Frank Zane taught us that bodybuilding is not about being a freak of nature. It is about being a masterpiece of human potential. He was the chemist who found the formula for perfection. He was the teacher who showed us that the mind is the architect of the flesh. As we close this tribute, remember the lesson of the god of aesthetics. True power is quiet, true strength is symmetrical, and true beauty is a manifesto of the soul, frozen in stone for all time. Is Frank Zane the greatest of all time, or does mass still rule the throne? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to the aesthetics of the golden era. Keep training, keep thinking, stay classic.